Pete. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Thanks for being here. And you're surging in the polls. All of a sudden, I mean, you were doing well, but I think now it has you like number 3 in some cases behind Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. All of a sudden, I mean, you were doing well, but I think now it has you like number 3 in some cases behind Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden.
So the last time South Bend, Indiana mayor and Democratic presidential hopeful Pete Buttigieg was here, we were like, Pete who, and how do you say that name? But now he's being hailed as the one to watch in election 2020 and even being compared to Barack Obama. Wow, that's something. Even being compared to Barack Obama. Wow, that's something.
Hello, Pete. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Thanks for being here. And you're surging in the polls. Like. Hello, Pete. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Thanks for being here. And you're surging in the polls. Like.
Let me ask you about Mayor Pete Buttigieg. The mayor of South Bend, Indiana, has raised around $7 million for his 2020 presidential campaign. So when you look at those numbers, how seriously should we take him as a potential nominee at this point?
Sure. So the reason we now know this is because the first fundraising quarter ended last evening. And so at this point, official campaign spending reports are due by April 15th. But we know that candidates usually start releasing the information themselves in the days before that deadline in order to get some good news. In this case, he believes he's raised a little over $7 million, which you might think, so what? Well, remember, a month ago, most Democrats didn't know who this guy was and couldn't pronounce his last name. Most Americans probably still don't know who he is and can pronounce his last name. But for somebody who was essentially scratching, not showing up at all as a factor, but has enjoyed a bounce now in the last month, to be able to raise $7 million in a month,
show. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and he's running to be the next president of the United States. Please welcome Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
Wow.
You're blowing up, man. You're blowing up.
Feels good.
Yeah, I bet you it does. Now, did I get the name close?
Yeah, close.
That's it. I read it's Boot Edge Edge.
You got it, Buttigieg. Yep. Just like it looks.
Let's call you Pete. Okay, so yeah, you are blowing up. I mean, wow. I must admit, a few months ago, I was just, who's this guy?
Mayor Pete Buttigieg. He's the first gay candidate that we know of.
True.
That we know of.
As I said, that's what he's up to right now, okay? So, Washington Post called you the most interesting mayor you've never heard of. For all of those who don't know you just yet, tell us a little bit quickly about you.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in South Bend. A lot of people know about Notre Dame, but there's a lot more to South Bend than that. We were really an auto town. We're characteristic of the industrial Midwest. It's a great community. Grew up there, left for a while, had a career in business, the military, as you said. Live with my husband and 2 dogs pretty close to my parents, and have really been proud over the last 7 years and change to serve our city. It's a city going through a real turnaround. At the beginning of the decade, they said we were a dying city. And now we're growing again. More people are moving into the core of the city.
As we told you last block, Mayor Pete has seen a big jump in the polls. As we told you last block, Mayor Pete has seen a big jump in the polls. As we told you last block, Mayor Pete has seen a big jump in the polls.
I mean, the Sanders team needs to be a little less desperate to throw mud on Mayor Pete. I mean, the Sanders team needs to be a little less desperate to throw mud on Mayor Pete. I mean, the Sanders team needs to be a little less desperate to throw mud on Mayor Pete.
New CBS News Battleground Tracker is showing Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden has a narrow edge in Super Tuesday states. That's a key day in the race. 14 states hold primaries on March 3rd. It shows the former vice president with a slight lead over Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Let me bring you in here for some breaking news. Mayor Pete just reported $7 million raised. $7 million raised. We've all been, I'm sure you've heard it.
Well, this makes him top tier.
First quarter, we've heard it. Everybody's heard it. It's kind of like what people said about Barack Obama in 2007. Well, you know what? This is good for America. He'll never win, but it's really cool. It's really cool. And that's what we've been hearing about Mayor Pete. The guy raised $7 million in the first quarter. He's lighting it on fire. Does this mean we need to start considering him a top-tier candidate?
You know, I think so, Joe. He's polling at 11% in Iowa right now, depending on what poll you look at, which is a significant leap from where he was earlier in the race when he got in. And look, he's had these big moments. We talked about this last week on Morning Joe, where he had a really strong interview that you and Mika gave a few weeks before. His CNN town hall was effective. He's on fire. And I think one of the things that he...
Hello, Pete. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Thanks for being here. And you're surging in the polls.